Hello, and good morning to those in the US. Good evening to those in Europe and elsewhere. So, I wanted to share a kind of a not necessarily a BC specific topic, but I am curious if it ever will come up in my future adventures with Business Central. But it has come up in the Dynamics GP related work that I've done, and that work is integration related. It is not GP specific. It's just about taking data from system A, getting it into system B, which just happens to be Dynamics GP. But that portion is pretty standard. The GP interface is standard, and so really the I like to say 80+% of the work related to an integration is the source data and transforming that and preparing that and getting that all assembled reliably to get it into the destination system, whether it be Dynamics GP, Business Central, your e-commerce system, whatever the case is. So I wanted to share a hack that I've used a couple times now, and I'm recording this because it has come up recently that I've had to use this with another project in order to get past a hurdle that the customer believed was insurmountable. And few things are insurmountable with ERP software, but this was a simple trick, so to speak, a little bit of a hack, and it worked fine. So let me jump into it. So here's the context. You have a scenario where all of a sudden you realize that you have to map values, for instance. So in this example here, the customer said, we only ship these orders using US mail, period. That's the code we use. All orders are US mail, no problem. And so I said, great, that went in the proposal. That's what we documented. That's what I designed against. Well, of course, that was not the case. The website that is capturing these orders, for whatever reason, records numerous shipping method codes, and I was suddenly faced with having to convert and map these website shipping codes to codes that can be used in the ERP system. And so I said, okay, great. This is a little bit of a workaround that I've used in the past. In this case, in .NET, let's take a look at an example here. So the website sends over priority mail. Well, in this case, the customer is telling me that that's not really what happens. You just want to import a code called US mail. Okay, but then there's priority mail USPS. I don't know why there are multiple ones, but that's what the website is sending me. In that case, US mail. Priority mail express, US mail. So for whatever reason, the website is utilizing these multiple shipping methods, and I'm supposed to convert most of those to US mail. As with anything, of course, they'll say, oh, it's always US mail. But just as they said it's always US mail and it wasn't, I suspect there will be a time when some shipping method needs to be converted to something other than US mail, like express or whatever it is. So I didn't want to hard code this to always be US mail and just ignore what the website is sending me. So my hack is in the .NET world, I can create a configuration file and I can store these mappings. Now, normally you would have one value in the configuration file. So for instance, you'll see on this first one, unit of measure is each. That's a simple example, which I'll get to later. And so what I did is I created a new parameter called shipping method. And in that parameter, in that setting, I stored a delimited list of values. Now, how do I map priority mail US mail and also priority mail USPS with US mail? How do I map those name value pairs in a list? Well, I've done it with a comma to separate the pair, the values, the name value, and then a semicolon to separate each value pair. So priority mail, comma, US mail, semicolon, priority mail, USPS, comma, US mail, US mail semicolon. So I'm using two delimiters in this single string in order to create a name value pair list. And this is super low tech. I didn't invent this, obviously, but it seems to be a technique that is not obvious to certain people who may need to work around this issue. So I thought I would share it. It's super simple, super easy to implement in code. You just do a split to get your list of values, and then for each value you do another split to get your name value pair. In this case, you first split on semicolon, and then you split on comma for each value pair. So really, really easy to implement. Now, the only limitation is when you get to 30, 40, 50, 100 of these values, it starts to get pretty tedious to maintain this list. So that's the one downside I've found, is if a user is maintaining this list, it's easy to make a mistake, mess up the delimiter. So it's not user friendly, but as long as the values aren't changing constantly or regularly, it actually works really well. And I have a customer who has been maintaining this for a couple years, and very simple. Okay, so that's just the example of a context where I've had to use this once. Now in this same integration, another issue came up. So this was the initial requirement. We only sell eaches. That's what I was told. That's the information I was given. That's how I designed this solution. They only sell eaches. So whether it's a mug, a plate, silverware, napkins, these are made up items. But no matter what the item is that is being sold on the website, it is sold as an each. Pretty simple, you might think. So I said, okay, great. So when I see MG205 mug quantity 2, that is 2 mugs. And when I see silverware, that is 1 silverware, 1 unit of measure each silverware. Well, of course, it was not that easy. The reality is the website sells items with over a dozen units of measure. I don't even know what the units of measure are. I don't even have a complete list. And the website does maintain these units of measure, but it does not maintain them with in a way that the website can export them with the orders. So when the website sends me the orders, they'll send me what you see here, a SKU or an item number essentially, an item description, a quantity, and I just put the unit of measure at the end just to show you what the actual unit of measure is. So it's unable to send me that last column, this website e-commerce software. It's widely used software. So it can send me the first 3 columns. It can't send me the last one. So the website consultant on the project apparently said, well, this can't be done. It's impossible. And so the client was all upset, and it's like, okay, let's have a phone call to discuss this, because I had already developed the entire solution. This was just the last issue we had discovered. So after talking through it, we discovered that when an item is actually sold on the website, that item that the customer sees or clicks on or adds to the shopping cart and checks out with, that item has a SKU that can be whatever we want it to be. So the workaround is combine the SKU and unit of measure code into a single value. And for whatever bizarre reason, the website software can accommodate this. Apparently it doesn't mess up the master item list in the system. And we can now have both the SKU and the unit of measure code in the same field. And this field, highlighted in green, can be exported as part of the order export coming out of the e-commerce website. So now I can get MG205 tilde each. Oh, and I've listed 3 common characters that you might use for this second delimiter. So this is all coming down as a comma delimited CSV file, right? So it's just a text CSV file. So I can't use commas to separate the SKU and the unit of measure. So popular one that I like to use is the tilde or tilde. And that's the little kind of squiggly guy that is right above the tab key and right next to the 1. So shift character tick, whatever that's called, that produces a tilde. Another common one is the caret. You're unlikely to see any of these characters or the pipe in a typical CSV file. Now, if one made its way in, yes, you would have a problem. But I'm only doing this additional level of parsing in the SKU field. So the chances are very low that the SKU is going to have a tilde, a caret, or a pipe in that field. So it's a pretty safe way to add a second delimiter. So in this case, I have MG205 tilde each, PL176 box 4, set 6, etc. And so I can now read the SKU, I can do a split on the tilde, and I can get both the SKU and the unit of measure out of one field. And so I'm told the e-commerce system has no other way to supply the proper unit of measure that I would otherwise be able to read as a separate field. So this is a second way of doing things in a pinch. It is a bit of a hack, but it works perfectly fine. Just use a unique delimiter and you essentially have a dual delimiter CSV file. So that is the workaround, and so this is what that would look like. This is my CSV file. Everything is comma delimited except in my SKU, I'm able to receive 2 values instead of 1. So I just received these data files after 7 months of this very small project, simple project, which has turned into, of course, famous last words, it should be easy. It's turned into quite a difficult, not technically difficult, just it's been an extended adventure, shall we say. So I finally have these new order files with the tilde to separate SKU and unit of measure. So I'm now going to test those and see what other issues are coming up in the file. So thought I'd share that little bit of a hack. It's great to use in a pinch. I've never had any problem with it so far over many years of using it, and it's just not obvious to many people. So give it a try if it comes up that you need to cram 2 values into one field, and have a good one. Cheers.